Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into real cases through the lens of a trained investigator and former prosecutor turned judge.
If you are sensitive to expletives, anatomical descriptions, and accurate descriptions of crime scenes, this podcast may not be suitable for you.
Have you or someone you love been a victim of a crime that's still unsolved? Crime Curious has teamed up with one of the top private investigation services in the Indiana and surrounding area. If you have listened to us long enough, you know that we do not seek out services or products that are meaningless to us or hold no real value. So you can trust us when we say that Corbett Investigations comes with decades of experience you won't find anyplace else. Corbett Investigations is run by a former homicide commander of one of the country's most successful homicide units, has put over 400 people in prison for homicide, handled over 1,100 death investigations, and solved 33 cold case murders. To be real with you, Mr. Corbett had a really difficult time telling us what we should highlight in this segment because he does not like to sound like he's bragging. Solving crimes has been his life's passion, and he has never done it for the accolades or recognition. He has a whole team behind his services that help him be so successful, as they specialize in things like blood stain analysis, ballistics, crime scene reconstruction, and forensic pathology, just to name a few. When you contact Corbett Investigations, you talk directly with Tim Corbett. He is hands-on with every case and can travel anywhere that's needed to get the job done. Corbett Investigations prides itself on honesty, truth, feet to the ground, real investigation work, and the strength to stand up to whatever is in the way of solving the crime. Corbett Investigations specializes in complex homicide cases, sex offenses, and criminal investigations that are old and new. Tim and his team have a reputation for finding witnesses and information that others could not. Although we hope none of our listeners ever need private investigation services, if you do, we recommend contacting Corbett Investigations and mention this segment on Crime Curious for a free consultation. Contact Tim Corbett today at 574-229-8115. You can also check them out on Facebook at Corbett Investigative Services, Inc., or their email, tim@tcorbett.org. That's tim@tcorbett.org. Thanks for listening, and now on to the show. Welcome to Crime Curious. I'm Charnell.
And I'm Megan.
Megan, let's shake all of our good luck gree-gree.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
We have so much. The mouse. Oh gosh.
Jason and those beads. He got the raccoon.
My keychain is still there that shouldn't be.
I touched everything that needs to be touched.
You did. Great job. So. Great job. Would you like to kick this episode off, my dear?
I would. So I just wanted to put out there, there may have been a small delay. I don't know if people noticed. The past couple weeks in our small town, our little community, have been rough, to say the least. So about 2 weeks ago, just over 2 weeks ago, we had an officer shot and killed on a traffic stop. And he happened to be somebody that we all know very well. I love this guy. I've known him for over 20 years. I know his family. It was really rough. So we're going to dedicate an episode to Deputy Billy Butler, William H. Butler, and he very gloriously served, I think around 14 years, I could be wrong on that, through the Hillsville County Sheriff's Office. He held every position you can imagine. He was started off as a jailer before becoming a law enforcement officer, but it's really important to point out, too, that he was also a sergeant. He served in the military, and he was retired. Billy was a recruiter also, so anybody in our community who has a kid that ended up joining, I think probably the National Guard is who he was recruiting for at that time, probably had contact with Officer Butler. So we are going to back our guys. It shouldn't have happened, and in memory of him. And then The only other thing I wanted to point out too, I had a really shitty couple weeks. I also lost a friend. Her name was Jamie, and Jamie was from West Virginia, dear good friend of mine and avid listener of our podcast. I don't know that Jamie ever had joined Patreon, but she listened to every episode and sent me lots of suggestions. And I even still have some of her final suggestions that I'm going to work on in memorial to her as well. So we're going to lift our drinks. We're having an adult beverage today, which we don't always do.
Nope.
And we're going to cheers to Deputy Billy Butler and my good friend Jamie. Cheers.
Cheers. Well said, my friend.
Now, that was the first time I've been able to get through any of that without crying.
I know.
You want me to tell you just a good feel-good thing, too, before we get started?
I sure do. We all need that.
Okay. Communities can really go one of two ways when they're dealing with an officer death like that. And the communities come together in really amazing ways for the family. Yes. I want to point out that he had a wife with 3 small children at home and then 2 adult children. He was also a papa. He had a couple grandkids as well. I had a young man come in the other day. He clearly distraught at the desk. And one of my clerks said, "Judge, I don't know what to do with this guy. He's very upset." He had been written a ticket by Billy, probably a couple of days before he was shot and killed at work. And clearly this kid had been out probably just enjoying himself. He got a motorcycle ticket, perhaps some speeding.
Sure.
He was having a good time. He comes in and he's like, "This officer was so nice and he's the one that died." He was so upset. And he's like, "And I don't know what to do." And I said, "Well," he goes, can I donate the money to the family?" And I said, "Well, I can't do that because I can't redistribute funds. But here's the deal. It's not even a valid ticket anymore. Do you realize that? Because the officer who wrote the ticket's deceased."
Oh.
And instead of, fighting it or setting it for a hearing, knowing that person's clearly never going to come to the hearing because he's deceased.
True.
He ended up going up to the sheriff's office where they voided his ticket, which was the appropriate legal thing for them to do. Mm-hmm. And then my understanding is he donated a very nice chunk of money to the family to show his respect for the officer who had written him the ticket and then was terribly, horribly killed a couple days later.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it made me feel good. It made me cry at work. And we all know how I feel about crying at work.
Right,
but it was a nice sentiment on that young man's part, and just goes to show you that we recognize that being a law enforcement officer right now with all of our law enforcement friends can be very hard. And we also know that there are bad apples, by the way. Mm-hmm. We are not saying that. In fact, we've covered some on this case before, and we're very often critical of police work on this podcast because we tell the truth here. But this was a person who was just a joy and a delight. And I can imagine a person anywhere that would have had a complaint against Deputy Billy. I just really can't. Yeah. So I wanted to point that out too.
That is amazing, and it speaks to the type of community that we have chosen to raise our children in as well. We have not lost an officer in the line of duty in over 100 years.
Correct.
So this was a huge deal, and like you said, in small communities especially, that can go one of two ways, and it went the right way.
We also have a ton of our listeners and our very dear friends who are wives or significant others or husbands of law enforcement.
Yes.
And it was not easy for us over the past couple of weeks. After it happened, my husband got home from work very late that night. Very dear friend and supervisor of the officer who was lost. So obviously he was struggling. Mm-hmm. And when he came in, I gave him the most weirdly uncomfortable hug I think I've ever given my spouse in almost 25 years, to the point where my daughter, who was sitting on the couch, covered her head up with a blanket because it made her that uncomfortable. Yeah. It wasn't an appropriate one. It was I was very upset and
emotional.
Just happy to have him home. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of listeners whose husbands are in law enforcement who have been really just kind of either venting on social media or just, kind of wrapping ourselves around each other as a community and as spouses. Yes. It sucks to not know if he's going to come home at night.
Correct. And just thank you, everybody, for your service. And I will share, because Megan won't, that when you are in a position that she is, and you have a family that's so ingrained in law enforcement like hers is, she had to focus. She was at work in court.
I was in the middle of a trial.
In the middle of a trial, not knowing if her husband was safe, but knowing that over the scanner, a shots fired officer down call came out. So just things that I don't know the general audience would think of or would know when these things happen. Truly, everyone who is impacted so significantly.
Yeah.
Even to the point where Brain Bath Jason, he happened to run into your husband who was on the side of the road gearing up.
At the scene.
At the scene.
Yeah.
He just happened to be in that place at that time and knows if he sees your husband putting on full gear with the guns that he had, yes, that some bad things had happened. And he called me and was, oh my God, is Megan okay? Should we, what should we do? And those
Charnell said, leave her alone. She'll reach out to us. And that's what I did.
Yes. So. Yes. So anyway, thank you we're dedicating this episode to two of our own that we have lost, a listener
Billy
and Deputy Billy.
My dear, one of my very best friends in the whole world who I miss every day.
Yes. Who listens to the podcast.
Who was a listener of the podcast and a fan.
And I'm just sorry for you that you have lost so many.
You know what? I won't even cry right now because I don't know if I have any tears left in my body to cry. But I also express grief well, and you guys just allowed me to have a therapeutic intervention right here for all of you to hear.
There you go.
So thank you.
This is how we healthily do it and move through emotions. Yes.
Are you going to tell me a story today?
I am.
Is it death? Is it horribleness?
It's equally as terrible, honestly. It is awful. I'm actually bringing you a horrible family murder case.
Lovely, Charnell.
Sorry, trigger alert because two children, minors, 16-year-old, but they're still children,
babies
are involved. Mm-hmm.
My 23-year-old is my infant, my child, my little baby.
You would cradle.
I would if she let me.
I want to thank Kelsey, our listener, for this recommendation, though. Have you ever heard of this? Just happened in 2017. I know I say just happened when I guess really that was.
Well, it seems like yesterday.
It does. Like, I vividly remember what I was wearing in 2017, but it really
Okay, you might be a little bit better than me. I don't really recall what I was wearing in 2017.
I very much do.
Something that probably showed cleavage. But that's a fair assessment because I can have cleavage in a turtleneck. So there's that.
That might be any decade for you. Yeah,
it could have been.
But anyway, this is the Careaga family murder case. It actually happened in Washington State in 2017. Took place at the Kitsap Peninsula, which is just west of Seattle, Washington.
Beautiful area.
It is. I actually started Googling it because I was like, oh, I've never heard of Kitsap. What is this? It looks like a gorgeous place.
I've never been. It is on my bucket list. I will do that.
Yeah. I would like to join you.
Maybe we should make this a trip.
That would be great because it sounded lovely. But let's talk about the Careaga family for a moment. And sadly, I have to tell you guys, most of this information I had to obtain right from the family's obituaries. There's not just there's not documentaries about this case. There is a lot of coverage, but not the in-depth nitty gritty that we like to bring you to get you to know the people to help keep their memory alive.
Yeah, they're giving us the news and we're missing that human interest piece to it.
Yes.
And that may be because the family chose to keep things very private, the family that was surviving.
I don't know, because they do speak out after the trials and stuff. They do speak out about
good, and you're going to give us that.
I am. I'm ready. So let's talk a little bit about the family. Let's first talk about Christale Careaga. So she was born October 6th, 1979 in Austin, Texas, to her parents, Larry Agato and Debbie King. She was described as being a precocious child. She was unafraid to try anything new, eager to explore, and cheerfully exuberant. She had a sweet smile, energy, and vivaciousness that were contagious. And I have to tell you, I believe every word of that statement because her picture, first of all, she's gorgeous, but you can see just what a wonderful, happy energy that she has. It radiates off of photographs from her. Christale was much loved. She became a mom at the age of 16 while juggling responsibilities to get her GED and studying to become a licensed dental assistant. She had two loves in her life, and I'm just going to warn you, there are a lot of Johns in this case, guys. So I will do my best to help differentiate for everyone what John I'm referring to.
Thank you.
But Christale, like me, married 2 men in a row with the same first name because it's just simpler that way, guys.
Didn't Brainbath Jason refer to you as lazy for marrying a second Matt?
He did. And you know what I didn't say at the time, but I should have because it would have been brilliant. But I will say to him eventually on the podcast, I may have married a man with the same first name, but he's about to marry a woman with practically the same face. He has a taste, man. His ex-wife and his current fiance look so similar that my family sees them in public and got confused. I was like, oh, are they back together? No. That is someone new. He has
a different human, a much tinier human, though.
Yes, shorter. Yep.
But I see,
but
in
still,
terms of some of those.
Well, and standing next to Jason, most people look really short, so it would be hard to tell between 4'11" and 5'4".
Fair enough.
Of how
exactly
how tall she is. But yeah, I just thought that was really funny. I'm like, he did say that about me, but you know what? He has a taste too.
Well, it's not like we don't pick on him ever, so we can probably just not pick on him about that.
I mean, I've already said something similar.
We'll put it in the back of our heads to use at some point.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Christale, she was fortunate enough to have 2 loves in her life. Her first one was John Higgins. Now, that's her first husband and the father of her 2 children, Ashlyn Rosemarie and Jonathan Felipe.
Okay. So her first husband's John, and she names her son John.
Exactly. As life sometimes happens, things didn't work out, and then she married Johnny Derek Garciga.
We're going to call him...
I didn't mean Garciga.
So we're going to call him Johnny.
He's Johnny. He did
quotes,
go by Johnny.
This one's Johnny. New husband, second husband is Johnny.
Yep. And son John, who also is a victim in this case.
Great.
So just so you have that heads up. Johnny Garciga had 5 children of his own.
Yikes.
Yep. So
hers, mine, and ours.
Yes.
Was more than the Brady
bunch. A little
bunch.
Brady bunch here. We have, so Christale joyfully became the mom of this blended family of 7 children, 5 boys, 2 girls at the age of 26.
Good gracious. So Johnny is a little older than her.
Yeah. Yep. He is a little bit older, but they just,
They meshed and blended.
They did. Both of them had an entrepreneurial spirit, okay? After several years as a dental assistant, Christale actually opened what was called Christale's Java Hut. And I should tell you, her name is spelled really uniquely.
Kristyl?
It's Christale.
Okay.
Christale.
I know some CH crystals as well, but not spelled that way.
Yeah.
Never ceases to amaze me what people decide to do on a child's birth certificate.
And when I was watching coverage, because usually I just read articles, but there was some actual video coverage, and some news anchors pronounced her name Christale and some pronounced it Crystal. And so I do apologize. I've chosen for simplicity's sake to call her Christale through the episode, but if that's wrong and you're a family member or know different, reach out. We'll make it right.
We're sorry.
Yep. It's just had to go one or two ways there. Johnny actually expands the hut and renamed it Juanito's Tacos.
It became a taco truck?
Yes.
They went from coffee to coffee and tacos.
Coffee and tacos.
Are you kidding me right now?
Yes.
Because that might be my new favorite place ever.
Well, it was much frequented in the area where they, as a couple, generously gave back to the community. What is my problem today?
Know.
Do you hear this?
I watched it. I do hear it.
What's happening? I've had one sip.
I see.
Of a very extreme, such a light beer that I don't even know if it qualifies as a light beer.
I actually thought I was drinking fruit juice for a minute.
That's what it's 95 calories for crying out loud. If they've sponsored us, I'd say their name, but
it's
they
infused
do not.
with real exotic fruit. So exotic. It has pomegranate in it.
Yes, and I'm drinking a prickly pear one. So there you go. It's super light. I'm just having, after a full day of work and reading reports about abuse and neglect,
yes.
My brain's not working.
That's called tongue trauma. You have tongue trauma today.
I prefer to get tongue trauma a whole different way, Megan.
Same.
Anyway, so the family generously gave back to the community. They were frequently helping anybody that was in need. Christale's favorite things in life were being a great mom to the 7 children, being the perfect hostess at Juanito's Taco Shop, and traveling with Johnny to sunny places. Christale's son, Jonathan Higgins, who is just 16 years old at the time of this murder case, was born July 9th in 2000. Now, Jonathan, as I mentioned earlier, is also a victim in this case. His name is Jonathan Felipe Higgins.
And he is the same age as my oldest, so he would have been 23 years old this year.
Right. Yep. At the time of the murders, he was 16. And for the sake of not confusing you, the other child that is a victim in this case was also 16.
And that was his child.
It was.
So
yes.
they each had children that were 16.
That were
did he
still
have
in
some
the home.
older too?
Yes, they both do. Jonathan Higgins was born in Washington to his parents, John Higgins and Christale Agato. Jonathan was described as a gentle giant with a big heart, and he could light up a room with his smile. He was absolutely angelic to behold. He loved water. He was an avid swimmer. If water was involved, he was happy. He also loved classic cars. He actually owned 2 at 16 years old.
Impressive.
A 1963 Chevy Impala and a 1983 Buick Regal.
Dude, I would have hung out with that kid in high school.
I am sad that the 1983, the year I was born, is called a classic car, but I get it. I get it.
Listen.
Yeah.
You're a classic lady.
Mm-hmm. Another way to say old.
Listen,
I know.
mine's just antique. I'm just an antique. My classic car and I were born the same year in 1977, and they're like, oh, an antique. And I'm like, me or her? Be very careful how you answer that.
For sure. Oh, I could find you down at the little local store, Papa's Treasures.
Probably could. No, you wouldn't.
Inside jokes.
Maybe my car would be down there.
Right. Another favorite pastime of Jonathan's was working at the taco shop, Juanito's Tacos, of course. He worked there after school and on weekends, which enabled him to buy his classic cars himself.
I love that they have their older kids involved in their family business. Anytime you have people who are running food establishments, our local Mexican restaurant, our local places, and they bring their kids in there, they do become ingrained in the community because they are teaching their children to be involved in the community as well. They meet everybody.
Yes.
They know everybody.
Sure do. And learn how to run a business.
Word.
And hard work.
Yes.
Because owning a restaurant,
customer service,
hard work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jonathan attended Kalahauya Secondary School in Birmingham. It's actually Bremerton, as a junior, and also attended West Sound Technical Skill Center. So It sounds like a community or a
tech center.
Thank you. That is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you about Johnny Careaga. Okay. He was born April 29th, 1973. So Christale was born in 79. He was born in 73.
Not a big age gap, just normal.
He was also born in Bremerton, Washington. It's very hard to look at. It's Bremerton. It's a lot of R's and a lot of E's in weird places for my eyeballs. Anyway, his parents are Irma, Jacob, and Enrique Careaga. He was loved by his family and his community alike. His children were the pride and joy of his life. The legacy of his kind spirit, passion for helping others, and zest for life will live on through his children. He was a proud owner of Juanito's Tacos, and he liked to share a taste of his home with his community. The restaurant was a dream that he had always had, and he took that dream and made it a reality. He really took great pleasure in preparing authentic style food, and that was very evident in the culture, the community, and the taste of the restaurant, which was so very popular. He met no stranger. He had a welcoming smile to all those who came into the restaurant, and he wanted everybody to feel like family and not just like a customer. And it sounds like from the interviews that I read from community members, not family or friends, actual community members, he accomplished that. of making people feel like a part of the family instead of a customer. I think that the family that runs our local Mexican restaurant very much has the same ideology about their business, because I think a lot of people feel like they really know their family. And it's just the whole time I was doing this case, I was thinking of that family and how terrible this all, just really is for their community. Now, Johnny's son, although not biological, Hunter Evan Sharp, is the final victim in this case.
The other 16-year-old?
The other 16-year-old. Yep. He was born March 26th, 2000, to Carly Shapp. Did I say Sharp? I said Sharp.
His name, Shapp or Shape or something?
It is Shapp. I added an R, and I apologize about that. So Hunter Shapp, and his mother was Carly Shapp, and Wilfredo Jackson. Yep. Oh, he's a junior, by the way. And also born in Bremerton, Washington. And so from what I can gather, Johnny and Carly were together, and he kind of adopted Hunter as his own. Okay. Because Hunter lived with them at the time of these murders.
There could have been a step-parent adoption that occurred.
Yep. I'm not sure. I didn't find that information.
Or he became a guardian somehow.
Yes. Or maybe not even any of those legalities. They were close.
Him?
Yeah. And he just lived with them.
I'm going to go stay with my stepdad.
Yes, exactly. Hunter was described as being full of energy. He enjoyed making people laugh. He attended Silverdale Elementary School and transferred to another elementary school in 2009 that I'm not even going to try to pronounce, because I make an ass of myself enough on this podcast. I don't need people adding me about that word. He spent a year attending Kingston Middle School and then transferred out. Sounds like he kind of bounced around in grades, but he was at North Kitsap High School at the time of this case.
Okay.
From the time that Hunter was eligible to play t-ball, he was committed to the game and his growth as an athlete. He played travel baseball and was able to play in Cooperstown, New York with the Pilots. He was a proud NK Viking and leaves behind a brotherhood that he was proud of. He's big athlete.
Baseball families, man, they last.
Yep.
They wrap around you.
So let's talk about Johnny and Christale Careaga. They married in 2009. They all lived in a rural home off from Tenino Drive West. Trying really hard not to butcher names here.
I'm very impressed.
As I can tell from what as you can tell from what I have already told you, this was a big loving family. And with the Careagas owning the Crystal's Java Hut and Juanito's Taco Shop, that was a thriving Mexican restaurant in Bremerton, Washington, the community loved the family too. Johnny Careaga was an obvious businessman, but from the reports after the investigation, it's clear that he also did some business in the illegal drug trade as well.
I don't like it.
No, I knew you wouldn't. I have no information to state whether or not Crystal knew of her husband's occasional dealing in cocaine. But
it just makes you sad a little bit that maybe, perhaps, and I don't know if we have evidence of it, like, is he slaying cocaine out of the taco truck?
No.
Okay, good, because that ruins this beautiful family establishment and brings a little extra something to your tacos that you don't want, or that you do but you can't have legally.
Right. I do have specific information of not only how much but how frequent he would do this, and it was not anything. We're not calling him a kingpin. Okay. It was dabbling. I truly believe
very illegal 20-year felony dabbling.
Absolutely.
But not the kingpin of Washington.
Nope.
Okay.
No. And truly I suspect, and so did the investigators, that this was simply used as a way to supplement any sort of like business debts, anything like that. I don't believe that this was something that he had planned on building into a big empire in Washington for himself at all.
I still don't have to like it.
Oh, no, none of us would. And I knew reading into this that I just went through all this stuff to tell you about what a beautiful family he has.
He still does.
And he does. And then we get to this point. None of that falls on his family. None of them. That doesn't take away.
But is this case going to fall on his family because of something he does?
There is only
I just
conjecture.
put my cards on the table.
There's conjecture, yes, but we'll get there. So we know that occasionally Johnny would travel to California. That is Johnny Careaga, not the son, Johnny.
We call him John.
We will. Let's call the son John and
her husband Johnny.
And I'm sorry to tell you, but later I'm going to introduce another John, and we'll come up with a nickname for him too.
Fantastic.
That's a lot. There's other names out there, people. Use them.
Apparently not.
So we know that he would occasionally travel to California to get a kilogram of cocaine every few months to sell in Kitsap County. Okay, so he's not just supplying his community with tacos and caffeine.
Yeah, he's a drug dealer.
Also some cocaine as well.
Yeah, the devil's sugar.
This is a point against Johnny. Rightfully so.
A couple points.
Yes. For every legitimate business he has, he gets a point taken away for the illegitimate business that he had. Truly, though, Megan, from what I can tell, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I am some sort of expert in drug slinging, but being in the field, you pick up on some things. He's a transporter. Other people sell it.
Oh, clearly. And then
so
he's coming back and selling it as well. He has to make a profit. Otherwise, there's no reason for him to do that. But he most likely owes somebody way bigger than him a much larger amount of cash.
I would imagine. Mm-hmm.
So to me, already we have an issue here. If he either paid for that up front, but doubtful, most likely he took it and they're like, this is how much you owe once you get it sold.
I would imagine because he
creates risk.
Well, he was the supplier because he's the transporter and the supplier because he had.
And then the
dealers went
come
and
in
sold
and then
him.
they're the ones that go ask the kids in the park if they'd like to buy suckers or blow.
Or blow suckers.
Suckers.
One of Johnny's close friends started selling the cocaine that he transported from California to a man named Robert Bobby Watson.
Of course, that's his name.
The third.
Robert
By the way, Robert.
Do you know how many times you have brought me Robert Bobbies over the years? And I know his middle name's not Bobby. That's what they call him. But Bobby. Robert Bobby is what I want to call him.
I know. Robert Bobby Watson the third, because there can't just be one. There can't just be two. There must be three. Thrice. Robert Bobby Watson.
Okay. Tell me about Robert Bobby.
So Robert Bobby, now keep in mind what I'm telling you. Johnny is not selling this cocaine to Robert Bobby. Okay. Johnny is giving this to one of his close friends who is selling it to Robert Bobby. Okay.
It's a tangled web they weave.
It sure is. And it's not the shamanistic web of life that we like to talk about.
No, it's the cocaine web.
Now, as it happens, Robert Bobby was a fully patched official member of the Bandidos MC Bremerton chapter biker gang.
Okay. So he is in a bicycle club.
Yes.
And I don't call them all gangs because I know very amazing, legitimate bicycle clubs.
Well,
but it
is
a valid bicycle club, I'm sure.
Yes.
But some bicycle clubs in the United States choose to use their powers for evil instead of good. And sometimes there's some drug dealing that goes along with those positions.
I'm going to enter this statement right here because Robert Bobby Watson was the vice president at the time of the Bandidos MC.
Okay.
All right. They refer to themselves as an outlaw motorcycle club, by the way. Mm-hmm. Although he is a member, and we're going to bring in later another member, what happens to this family is not because of the Bandidos MC motorcycle club. They just happened to be members of it. And as a matter of fact, they fully cooperate with the investigators because they do not condone the killing of women and children.
Okay.
So I do think that it's important that since I'm mentioning that he is a member of this club, that I also be fair and mention that it is not because of the club as to why this happened to this family.
Okay. I'm glad, because the first thing I think is, now first we have drug trafficking. Now we have the potential for a nefariously acting bicycle club.
Yes.
And all of these things add up.
Right. But I just think that it would be unfair. I'm not saying that they do call themselves an outlaw motorcycle club.
Yeah, but the Outlaws is its own special branch. I see people with their Outlaws vests and stuff on all the time, and I come from a family where we're pretty familiar with bicycles.
Right.
And by bicycles, I mean the vroom vroom Harley kind.
Yes. The Banditos MC are actually a self-proclaimed 1%er outlaw motorcycle club with a global presence who have a long-standing history of involvement in organized crime, as well as other unlawful activities, including drug trafficking and murder, but not of women and children.
Yeah, but Charnell,
That's where they draw the line.
There is honor amongst thieves.
Yes, that's all I'm saying. So
if you have a penis, you are in trouble.
If you wrong the MCs
but
over
if
here,
you have a kitty, you are good to go.
You are. They don't condone that. Some of Johnny's clients were known members of the Banditos MC. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, everybody likes tacos. Oh,
they're all
you
in the
meant
same
cocaine
Yes.
customers. You know, my mind, innocent as it is, jumped right to tacos.
I'm going to take a guess to say that probably the Banditos also enjoyed themselves some Java from Crystal's Java Hut and tacos from the Taco Hut. Like, I mean, they
and cocaine from the Devil's Sugar Hut.
Right. They mixed all the business and pleasure together.
I don't know what kind of a human I'd be if I added cocaine to the amount of coffee that I drink on a regular basis. My heart, I would explode.
I don't know how
I would be walking down the street and just
For
combust.
me, it's not the coffee, it's the tacos. I have that shit a couple times a week.
I love tacos, but I would know better than to mix those with my coffee and cocaine, Charnell.
Oh, I feel like mixing coffee and cocaine's a way more dangerous combination.
You got to live on the edge. You do.
That isn't living on the edge. That is hanging off from it by one finger. Pretty sure.
Oh, I would never be able to hold myself up by a finger. Maybe if we got one of my big old thighs up there, I could hold on for a bit.
I'm hanging
She's
on
holding
by
on by a thigh.
by a ham hock here.
By a hammy. Sometimes we only think ourselves are funny.
For sure. Sorry about that, guys. Sometimes
Carry on.
we get derailed. Well, the close friend of Johnny's that was selling to Robert Bobby stopped selling to him and instead was like, you know what? I'm not dealing with you anymore, Robert Bobby Watson III. I'm just going to go ahead and put you in direct connection with Johnny, my man, himself.
Oh.
Okay? Yes.
That's an interesting business tactic.
I know. And this is where shit goes wrong. So now Robert Bobby Watson and Johnny are linked and in direct communication with one another over cocaine. What we also know is that Robert Bobby Watson started to literally follow Johnny to California when he would go on his kilo run for
you
cocaine.
wanted to know who the big boss was?
Yeah, and this is not okay.
No.
You don't do that.
No, that's frowned upon.
Yeah.
That's how you end up on a milk carton.
For sure.
He went missing on a trip to California.
You are not to be followed to the supplier.
No.
No. So this results
Has
in...
nobody watched movies?
Listen, Robert Bobby Watson III is the vice president of the Banditos. I'm pretty sure he thinks he's untouchable.
Okay. No one's untouchable.
Mm-mm. And everyone can disappoint you, as Jason told me the other day at dinner when we were having a staff meeting. And I was like, oh my God, you're so right. That's true.
And it's so depressing.
It is. Leave it to Jason to tell us something fucking depressing.
Always. It's like drinking with Eeyore.
I know.
And I'm over here just trying to live my best Tigger. I am.
Right. Me too. I'm a little bit like Piglet
You're
sometimes.
totally Piglet.
But I know.
But we have our
right
Tigger
down
moments.
to the well, right now where I can't think of what I'm trying to say and I stutter. I am Piglet.
Oh, poo.
So anyway, what I could find, I wanted more information about like what happens when Johnny discovers that Robert Bobby Watson III is tailing him to his supplier, right?
He ends up on a milk carton.
What the only thing that was described is that it resulted in a big verbal argument between the two, between Johnny and Robert Bobby Watson. For all I know, they beat the living shit out of each other.
I was just going to say, In almost every plea I see happen in court where there was something super assaultive and it gets pled down to like a fucking disorderly person or disturbing the peace, I just sit there and do my job, right? I have to accept the plea. And I'm laughing the whole time when they're like, was there an argument, perhaps a verbal argument of some kind that took place? Yes. Could it have called a disturbance to others? Possibly. And then I accept the plea. And the whole time I'm thinking, yeah, it was probably pretty loud when you punched that guy right in his fucking face.
Absolutely.
But
I bet it was.
It's not my job. I'm just there to do my job, Charnell.
Yes. I recently had a conversation with someone who was trying to apologize for screaming in my face, and the person literally said, "I'm sorry that I escalated my voice at you." That's not an apology.
You know what else is an apology? And I do this all the time, and it's because I don't mean to apologize. I'm sorry that you felt that way.
I know. That is.
I'm sorry that after I reprimanded you, you felt that way.
I'm sorry that the words of truth that I hit you with pissed you off, made you feel a certain way. Anyway, it is unknown whether Robert Bobby Watson had purchased the cocaine for his own personal use or if he was going to resell it to profit off from it, by the way.
A kilo?
Well, he didn't purchase the whole kilo.
Oh,
he was
fuck.
just
good,
purchasing
because I'm like,
some
that's a lot of personal use. You know how many times I've also had people come in on what is clearly an amount of drugs sufficient for dealing and say, nope, that's personal use. And I'm like, are you Babe the Blue Ox? That no one can consume that amount of drugs. That is not personal use.
Again, they're stocking up for the winter. The winter months are hard.
Yeah, Grandma taught him to can as a child.
Yes, can your cocaine.
God. First place you should check, by the way, when you execute a search warrant.
There
Seller,
you go.
every time.
The seller.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Oh, well, I admit, a lot of things keep longer down there.
They do. They do. You can hang your root vegetables, can your tomatoes, and put your cocaine down there.
Yeah, and have a whole corner of potatoes.
It's fresh all winter.
It is. Also, what's the shelf life of cocaine? I've never considered this before.
You know,
does it have an expiration date?
I never have owned any.
No,
to
me neither.
test that
Curious.
theory.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I will make an inquiry.
I'm not sure that it has ever sat long enough and not been put in use to expire. But it is made of natural ingredients.
That's why most people don't store like cheese. It shouldn't last. It's not, how long did that cheese last you? How the fuck should I know? I ate it within 24 hours.
Absolutely. The expiration date on cheese is a waste of ink.
Oh, true. And in my house, so is milk. We had a couple weeks go by because we were on vacations and such that I'm like, oh, I got back. I'm like, that milk looks like it's on the verge. Like it's supposed to expire tomorrow. Usually it's gone in 24 hours. I don't know what expired milk would be like. For those of you that have ever dumped onto your cereal and been totally grossed out, I don't understand how you feel.
Oh, I've never experienced that
it doesn't
in
last.
this house either.
Dairy doesn't last.
When you have 4 boys, we buy 3 gallons of milk every 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
I had to get closer.
you did. I'm teaching Megan
not to touch my microphone.
Yes.
And do you see me fidgeting like a 5-year-old over here?
I do.
Trying not to touch the mic.
You actually want to grip it.
I do.
In a certain phallic way.
I can't even describe to you. You should take my picture.
I should. This is how she wants to touch the microphone. Y'all use your imagination.
This isn't a brain bath. We're not going to go there.
I've told her she can't because I can hear it when I'm editing. Anyway, let's talk about this verbal argument. So things are clearly heating up. But for the sake of not throwing too many names and confusing information, I want to introduce you to the 2 other individuals that are connected to this case aside from Bobby Watson III. Okay, so what I mean by that is we're going to stop here at the things are heating up, and now we're going to shift gears, and I want to tell you about the 2 other perpetrators so that when we get back to the story,
I'll know
you know the players.
About.
Yep.
All right.
Follow me, sister.
I do.
All right, let's talk about...
I feel like I'm playing the new Mario Kart. They've introduced so many people in the new Mario Kart that I can't... What happened to 5 players? Now there's like 25.
Things get too complicated.
All right, Robert Bobby, give it to me.
After Robert Bobby III, we have Danny J. Kelly. Danny was a hang-around associate of the Banditos Motorcycle Club. He was a prospective member, and he was being sponsored by Robert Bobby Watson III.
We call those groupies.
Yes.
In the music industry.
He wants in, but he's going to have to prove himself first. He was seen in police surveillance footage wearing Banditos MC supporter apparel, because he can only be a supporter because he's not an official member, because of the fact that he was like, in sponsorship by Bobby Watson. Now,
Groupie.
remember, yeah, he's Bobby Watson.
I'm going to keep calling him a groupie.
He is the groupie because remember, Bobby is the VP. So he's hoping to have a full membership, which means he's going to have to do everything that Bobby asks him to do. Danny Kelly, who, by the way, his name is spelled Danie. I want to call him Diane so bad because my mind sees those words, Danie, it transports it into Diane.
I've seen the name Danny multiple times spelled like that. It's always a female, though, because it's shortened from Danielle. It's Danny.
No, not this guy. This is a male.
Okay.
He had once also had a close relationship with Johnny Careaga, even going as far as to serve as the best man in Johnny's first wedding.
Oh.
Okay.
All of this stuff is going to tie up.
Mm-hmm.
Tie in, tie on.
The two would later have a falling out, however, when Johnny accused Danny of stealing money from him. Okay.
I thought you were going to say sleeping with his wife, but money's clearly more important. I apologize.
Absolutely. Money is harder to come by.
If
frankly.
you stole money from me, I would be more mad than if you stole my husband from me. Because you're going to give him back.
Same. Right. Same. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But I don't know that you'll give the money back. You'll spend that shit.
Gone.
Yes.
Done. Nails, lashes, manicure, hair, shoes. Husband?
In that order.
It was fun. There you go. Take that back.
He opened his mouth. Time for me to hand him back.
I don't like it when they talk sometimes.
No. Oh, shit. Anyway, also, there's another connection besides, because being his best man isn't enough, but Johnny and Danny also know each other because Johnny and Christale own the home that once belonged to Danny's parents.
Okay.
This becomes important later.
All right.
Okay?
So there's a method to your madness.
Yes. The last person that I want to discuss is another Johnny, and I'm sorry. His name is Johnny James Watson.
He's JJ.
Okay, let's call him JJ. That's fine. But he is Robert Bobby Watson III's brother.
Of course he is.
So JJ Watson.
Robert Bobby and JJ.
We've got brothers. We got best men. Betraying one another. It's a whole
stolen
thing.
Money, tacos, and the devil's sugar. I don't know if this is just it's like a Saturday morning cartoon.
For adults and felons.
I mean, come on. Look at who you're dealing with here.
This could be an anime thing.
I like it.
So Johnny, so anyway, so just to keep that straight, we've got JJ Watson, Johnny James Watson, brothers with Robert Bobby Watson, and then Danny Kelly.
Got it.
Okay. They're the three perps. Johnny was also a Bremerton resident, and unlike his brother, he was not affiliated with the Banditos Motorcycle Club.
Not a groupie.
He was not. His only affiliation is just that his brother was the VP. Let me take you to the night of the absolute horror that happens in this case. Much of what was pieced together well after the fact during the course of the investigation. On the night of January 27th, 2017, the Careaga family had friends over that night. One friend told detectives that Johnny Careaga had been in a good mood, but that changed when he received a phone call. And uncharacteristic of him, he left the home to meet someone. That's all he said. He got this phone call. His mood obviously changes. He tells his guests and his wife he'd be back shortly. He's got to go meet someone. We know that he went to the Camp Union grocery because he is caught on, I shouldn't say caught, he is seen on video surveillance of the grocery. It was taken about 9 p.m. It shows Johnny Careaga's truck pulling up and parking next to an unidentified vehicle. After Johnny leaves the lot, the other vehicle drives to a next door church parking lot, parks, and turns its lights off. When Johnny returns back to the house, the guests take notice because Christale says, Johnny's back. But then they notice he never comes inside. So one of the guests go out to check on him and couldn't find him in the attached garage, but he heard 3 men talking in really raised voices. He couldn't exactly make out the words of what was being said, so he intentionally made a noise. It actually says accidentally made a noise, but it was in quotes, like as to suggest he purposely made his presence known, and the voices stopped, and that was the end of it. As the guests depart, Christale was actually walking out to check the garage herself for Johnny because Johnny didn't come back into the house. The guests leave for the night, and the only remaining members in the home are Christale. We think Johnny went back into the home.
Okay,
we don't know this for sure, but we do know that Christale, Johnny, and their two 16-year-old sons, Hunter and Jonathan, are there. Guests leave. Okay?
All the other kids are gone.
Yes, their older children either don't live in the house, I don't know that information, or just weren't home.
I keep forgetting that the 16-year-olds are actually the youngest. They're the minors. Everybody else is, all the other children are adults.
Yep.
And I don't know why, because that's almost my life.
Right. Investigators describe what appears to be a surprise ambush on the family. So the perpetrators, what we know of, come in and shoot Christale Careaga right in the head and Jonathan Higgins. Jonathan appears to have come out of his room, presumably to check on the commotion as well, after Christale was shot. This, I don't know why, just was so freaking sad to me, probably because my own 16-year-old does this so often, but Hunter Schaap was actually carrying a pizza into the home.
Oh, God. Normal. It's just so normal.
Yes, exactly. When he was ambushed by at least one of the gunmen. Based on the evidence, they think that Hunter surprised the killers. The first shot actually missed, but he was struck by two subsequent shots, and he was then left for dead, but he was actually still alive at the time, Megan, and he made a 911 call.
Oh, God,
this poor kid and this poor 911 dispatcher. In the call, you can hear Hunter say, "Help, I'm dying. My family is dead. Come now. When are you going to come help me?"
My heart.
He told, and this was at 11:28 p.m. The line went dead after 38 seconds. Detectives believe that his phone was either taken or dropped, and from there, a pillow was put on the back of his head before a third and fatal gunshot killed him.
Oh, they used it as a silencer.
Yes.
Why? After all of the murder that you just committed, are you going to silence that?
I think they realized we don't really know how many people are really in this home.
Okay.
I'm not sure. We know that from there, fire starting logs, and it's possible that fire starting logs had been placed on beds at opposite ends of the home.
Oh, they were going to arson this shit now to cover up?
Well, they did. Okay, they soaked it with accelerant. That's why they think that Jonathan and Christale were killed first. Then they're placing these logs around the home soaked with accelerant, and then Hunter came in and surprised them because he was out getting pizza.
Where was little John?
He was in his bedroom. He came out of his bedroom. And they shot him after he heard Christale, presumably.
That's what I was trying to figure out is we believe mom and dad were shot first, and then Christale's son, and then Johnny's boy.
I actually didn't say that dad was shot.
Oh.
Dad is not in the home. This is why I said we don't know if Johnny... We know that the guests said that that Christale had said... Johnny pulled back into the house. Dad Johnny, okay?
So he wasn't found.
The guests say he didn't come back into the house.
He was out arguing with three distinct voices.
Right. One guest, and that Christale had went to check the garage as well, and Johnny wasn't there, okay? But no one laid eyes on him, Megan. Okay?
So we don't know that he was ever there.
Correct.
Unless you're going to tell me about his body being found.
I will later, yes.
Okay, not right now.
But he's not in the home. So the perpetrators walk in, they kill Christale. Little John comes out of his room to see what the commotion is. They kill him, presumably then start placing these logs around the home to set it on fire. And Hunter surprises them by arriving with a pizza for his family. They shoot him twice. He calls 911.
His family that he chose, by the way.
Yes.
Because he's not a biological child of either one of them.
Large rocks were also thrown through the home's windows to help grow the fire that was ultimately started. By the time first responders were on scene, the home was ablaze. Investigators found the remains of Christale, Hunter, and Jonathan, little Jonathan, inside.
No remains of Johnny.
No, Johnny Careaga and his truck are missing. And they remain...
The truck that had pulled in earlier?
Yes, his truck. Yep, his silver Ford F-150. They remained missing for 2 days until Johnny Careaga was found dead inside his scorched truck in a field of a tree farm. And the truck had the same accelerant on it as the logs from the home.
Okay. So whoever did this wasn't satisfied with just killing him there. They wanted something. Mm-hmm. So they're having an argument. They want something. He's not giving it up. I presume he was at the house. They then go in, kill his whole fucking family, everybody that's left there.
To get what they want.
Then they get in the vehicle, drive him someplace else. I don't know whether they torture him, but they certainly don't get the information, drugs, money, whatever from him they want. And they proceed to murder him and burn him in his vehicle, or at least burn the evidence.
You know what I couldn't find? Because they found him in his scorched vehicle, but I couldn't find anything that said, had he been shot beforehand?
Was he tied?
Had he been, right. No, I found nothing. The only information is just that he was found dead in his scorched vehicle. I wanted the details. Did they shoot him? Had he been dead for a couple of days?
Did they just simply assault him and he was passed out?
Correct. And then they set it ablaze. I don't have that information for you, and I'm sorry because I looked really hard for it.
And it must just not have been released because we know from other cases we've had that a really good coroner is going to be able to tell you whether somebody was burned while they were still alive or whether they were dead prior because of the lung and the throat and the nasal conditions.
Yep. I truly think that a lot of the reporting on this case, like details like that, just went left out because it was such a sensation to say, oh, these motorcycle gang people. Like, it was almost like the focus on it was just in different areas. It was very shocking that it's a whole family. We have children involved. So I think that just small details like that were just left out. Like, oh, the public, yeah, he was found dead in his truck, guys. He died too. It's terrible.
Of the suspects, though, only one of them is an official member of that motorcycle club.
The other one is just a sponsored hopeful.
And then a sponsored hopeful, and then a brother who has nothing to do with the motorcycle club
right.
at all.
But there was a lot of coverage about the motorcycle club.
Of course.
Yeah.
Especially if
even
you're
though they
in
had nothing to do with this.
a smaller town, a smaller community. They may not, but I'm going to express almost some appreciation for how the media, you're going to worry when there's individuals involved in a club who then choose to or are involved in something criminal, and it does come back and negatively reflect on your club. And for those of you that don't like that, welcome to fucking politics.
Yeah.
Or welcome to being a police officer.
Yeah.
Where one person does something wrong and now all of a sudden you're all bad.
Yes.
Generalization. Everybody's corrupt.
Yep.
Everybody's corrupt.
What's curious about this is that the landowner of the tree farm told investigators that he saw Johnny earlier in the day on the land, but without his truck. I know. I don't know.
Weird.
Did he bury something? Is he like you spoke to earlier?
Was
he looking for something? That's the first thing I thought of. Okay.
And then he took it to him finally.
Maybe.
When he knew his life was at risk and he just saw his family die instead of giving it up. And
I don't know. We don't have that information.
No, we're completely speculating, but I kind of fitting that together, what other possible reason would he have had for being out there on that tree farm?
That random land that he didn't own.
That he died on later?
Yes, in his truck at that time.
In his truck burned. It wasn't like he was one of the perpetrators that was out there scoping out a spot, because that makes sense.
Right.
Oh, I'm going to get a hold of this motherfucker. I'm going to get him out here. I'm going to find this is a good place to kill him. No.
It was him. Yeah, it was Johnny. That's why I think he was looking for something that he may have hidden out there.
Okay.
What we know from...
A kilo of cocaine.
Possibly. Money.
Yeah.
Yeah. What we know from the investigation is that later that evening, the evening of the murders, Robert Bobby Watson III called 911 to say that his truck had been broken into several days earlier, and a loaded Glock handgun and second loaded magazine were stolen.
Dumb shit.
Right? When a thief smashed his passenger window. But when police arrived to investigate, he'd let them know it happened several days earlier. I already cleaned the glass up.
You just sold yourself out, you dumb
Well, right, because now they're going to look back on these guns that killed these people.
Happen to be from you that you reported stolen today.
And you have connections, cocaine connections with Johnny.
And were potentially heard prior with him. Last person to see any of this family alive. Remind me again, he's the groupie that hasn't quite gained access,
Robert Bobby Watson's the VP.
Oh, how in the hell did he make it in? It wasn't based off of smarts, because that's one of the dumber things I've heard a criminal do.
For sure. After the murders, detectives say that Bobby Watson showed up at the home of a fellow Bandino member in Pierce County at almost 4 a.m. Roughly 4 hours after the killings, 4 or 5, he was not wearing pants and he asked to borrow some. He washed his hands there and said that he had been in a fight with a, quote, homeless black man. First of all, why does his color matter, you piece of shit? End quote. The color matter piece of shit, not a part of the quote. I added that.
Weird.
He just said homeless black man, quote. Okay. He left the house in a car, which was puzzling to his Bandito friend member because he's like, I thought he arrived on foot. We never heard a car pull in. He arrived on foot, not wearing any pants, borrowed pants, cleaned his hands, and then all of a sudden a car picks him up. Now, the reason...
Hypothetical. What would you do if I showed up here at 2 a.m. not wearing pants?
I would assume that you lost them probably trying to challenge someone to something. I bet
I probably shouldn't have asked, but I'm just saying, I feel like this should tip you off. And if you're not close friends and it's just like, it's your VP of your club and he's naked outside your door, you probably don't want to have any part in that, sir.
Nope. Hard no.
And maybe start like looking out your window and being like, oh God, it's fucking Robert Bobby. He's naked. His dick's out. I'm not letting him in.
Right.
Honey,
right.
Pretend I'm not home.
It's
Stay in bed. Don't turn the lights on.
Dick Watson's here. I mean, Bobby Watson's here.
Okay.
The reason that we know this, though, is because the Bandito members fully cooperated with the investigation.
Absolutely.
And so they're like, by the way, think this might be important for you to know. Dude showed up with his dick hanging out, needing to borrow my pants and washing his hands. Then a car mysteriously picks him up. Also, something that you should know about Dick Watson, Robert Bobby Watson,
I like this,
is that he was an employee of Kitsap County Public Works. So like the water work, like that. Okay. At the time of the murders. But keep in mind, the investigation goes on for a while. Well, they discover through it that Bobby stopped going to work and he was ultimately fired in September 2017. This happened in January 2017. He stops going to work, gets fired in September, 8 months after the murders. Meanwhile, detectives allege that about $303,000 was deposited into his accounts that year. And I don't know if you're familiar, but Kitsap County Public Works people,
$45,000.
They do not make $300,000 in a year.
No, that's. I scared myself.
You did. That was weird.
I got all excited and gestured, and I scared myself. Illegal drug trade. But somebody didn't launder it very well.
No. There were also numerous cash deposits that the source could not be identified.
Tips. He worked at the taco truck.
I'm just a really good taco maker.
I make a lot of tips.
Johnny Careaga reportedly had placed $200,000 under his home, but it was never found.
The home that was burned?
Yes. We know that it was there because, or somewhere, like, was it on the tree farm?
Oh,
that's what I wonder.
I think so.
By the way, reports did not say that. This is conjecture of my own investigation.
Oh, I think that so.
I'm just speculation, just wondering.
This is a buried treasure situation.
We know that he had $200,000 somewhere because Johnny's lawyers spoke to the detectives and informed them. Like, we know he has this cash hidden. Okay, think about it, guys. We know that he was in the cocaine trade. Okay, and like you had indicated earlier, he might have just been transporting it for other people to sell it, but it had to have been profitable for him or he wouldn't have been doing it.
And this guy's not a fucking idiot, so he didn't deposit $200,000 into his bank account. He hid it.
He hid it and probably just made several small deposits here and there.
Or didn't. Used it as cash.
Exactly.
Made some cash purchases.
Might have.
At least it's not traceable, trackable.
But I wondered if he had actually buried it. He may have told his lawyers, yeah, it's buried under my house, because why would you tell anyone exactly where it's buried, right?
Because you sometimes tell your friends things and then they turn on you and kill you and your family.
Which is why you maybe lie to them. Don't tell them the full truth. The money might have been buried, but I don't think it was buried under his house. I think it was potentially buried at this tree farm. And so when they don't find it under the house, they kill his family and make him take them to it. And now it's deposited in Robert Bobby Watson's bank account in 8 months. See what I'm saying?
Who does this? That is just so stupid.
So the lawyers tell, I know. The lawyers say,
you killed somebody and you found their buried treasure. Listen here, one-eyed Willie. Don't put it in your fucking bank account. He did. Oh my God.
It's lazy. It
is lazy. People died for that level of dumb.
Yes, I know. Babies, innocent babies. So I was just thinking, yeah, Johnny may have told his lawyers that, but then as Jason reminded us, anyone can disappoint you.
Everyone can disappoint you.
So Johnny might have just said to his lawyers, like, hey, yeah, I got the money buried under my house, when really it's buried on a tree farm. Regardless, he's got the money and it's buried. Okay.
Well, if he did that, probably should have checked with the lawyers to see how he should deposit that.
Yeah. A neighbor thought, well, that was Johnny, not Robert Bobby.
Not One-Eyed Willie? Gotcha.
Robert Bobby didn't get himself a lawyer. He didn't need one. He's a criminal mastermind, clearly.
I like to hope and think that attorneys wouldn't assist people in committing crimes, but I'm just throwing that out there.
You go ahead. Well, we just said anyone can disappoint you.
And they do.
So a neighbor thought that night that he heard gunshots the night of the homicide. And while outside moving his truck, he watched as Johnny Careaga's truck drove off at a high rate of speed down the road. Detectives said that the man identified the driver as Danny Kelly. He knows Danny Kelly because Danny Kelly's parents owned that home before Christale and Johnny. Remember that nugget of information I gave you earlier? So he absolutely could have positively identified Danny Kelly.
This is what we call a good witness.
Yes.
Almost a smoking gun. This guy's going to come in and he's going to testify that, yes, I saw you here. Defense attorneys are going to try to poke holes in it. And in the meantime, he has a legitimate reason to know and identify Danny because, he grew up here.
For sure.
I know this child.
Your parents were my neighbors.
His parents were my neighbors for years, and that's where the people lived that were murdered. And then I saw you there.
Not only that, I saw you drive away in Johnny's truck, and then I saw a silver car nearly bumper to bumper behind that truck, hauling ass away too.
My heart goes out again to nosy neighbors that remember details because I don't. Mm-hmm. I do not pay attention to what's going on around me. My situational awareness, especially when I used to live in town, is poor.
Yeah.
To say the best. You could stand naked in front of your window and dance around doing the helicopter, and I would have no clue until somebody pointed it out. You would come over and say, do you see what the pervert's doing in your window? And I'd be like, oh, that's weird.
And unfortunately, I'm the opposite. I could tell you the color of the flesh, how pink of a tone it was, and approximately how many centimeters long it was.
Let's use inches. We're in the USA.
I said what I said, and I stand by what I said. Inches might have been lying, ma'am.
Oh, good point.
Anyway, so here is this silver car that is bumper to bumper right after Johnny's truck. Another detail, though, is that Danny and Johnny hated each other. Remember, they had a falling out. They were best man. Or Danny was his best man. They had a falling out.
So he stole from him.
Money. Right?
Oh, we're back right around. It's a vicious
Johnny
circle.
had accused Danny of stealing money from him, so they ended their friendship. And the neighbor knew that and said, Danny and Johnny hate each other, so Danny would have no business being at Johnny's house or driving his truck. Rightfully so. What I'm thinking, Johnny's probably taken against his will after his family is murdered, as we had said before. When investigators examine the crime scene, they uncover over $50,000 in cash that was stowed within a strong box along with a money bag in the master bedroom containing $7,000, which means I think the murderers didn't know about that money.
Clearly. No, this guy may have taken all of that to his grave, except for he was trying to get him away from his family, right? Trying to get away from his house. So he takes him out to where it's barely buried. But I'm going to be honest with you. He waited to do that until after his family was dead and his house was on fire. I'm sorry, Charnell. He was saving his own skin.
I don't know that because of the way the detectives described this as an ambush on the family, I don't know that Johnny took them seriously, that if they had made threats to kill his family, I don't think he took it seriously.
Okay. So then it happens, and he's like, okay.
Oh, fuck.
Now I need to save. He is trying to save himself. I'm not meaning to make that sound as judgmental as I did a moment ago.
Right. But remember, he has 7 children. 2 are gone.
I know.
And so I think that
so he's going to lead them then to his hidey hole in
hopes. And he probably
farm.
knows they're going to kill me when I give them this money. I mean,
but maybe they won't kill my family now. The rest of my family
can be safe because I can identify them. So obviously they're going to kill me. But if I give them this money, then maybe the other of my 5 children can be safe.
This is just a PSA, you guys. If any of you ever felt like dabbling in some type of drug trade or even just selling a couple dime bags, you're putting your whole family at risk. They will kill them.
Yes.
They don't care.
They do not.
And you have a weakness because you have people you love and they can use it against you.
Yep. So meanwhile, less than a week after detectives, by the way, thank you for the PSA, Your Honor. That was fabulous.
It was basically an after school special. But
it was.
Other than that.
It's not quite as wholesome as reading Rainbow, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Meanwhile, less than a week after detectives released video of Johnny Careaga's truck and the unidentified car that was at Camp Union Grocery, Johnny Watson's car. Now, remember JJ?
I remember JJ.
JJ Watson, Bobby Watson's brother, was a 2006 Mercedes, a little silver car.
Ooh.
That was on the tail of the truck that the neighbor described, was found stripped and dumped in a river less than a week after releasing the footage to the public. The radio, tires, airbags, and other items that are generally stolen from a vehicle when a vehicle is stripped and dumped were still present. But strangely, Megan, porous surfaces such as carpeting, seats, headlights, seat belts, things like that were removed.
DNA.
Exactly. The vehicle was missing its plates and had not been reported stolen. But later, Bobby and Johnny Watson paid $1,500 to get the car back. And the detectives watched them do it.
Really?
Yeah. In court documents, detectives used cell phone tracing to show where Johnny Careaga and the different suspects were located before, during, and after the killings. That included Danny Kelly Jr.'s purchase of a prepaid mobile burner phone at a Silverdale Target. The phone was used to communicate exclusively with Johnny Careaga for the 10 days leading up to the killings, but not at all after. The phone was not used after Johnny was dead.
So we've now determined its purpose.
Yep. Even though the phone didn't expire until April 2017. This was January that this all happened, right?
We know why.
So we know why. It would take years before all the pieces of information would come together. And it should be noted that I already said this. Sorry, I just put it. I wanted to make sure I got it in here somewhere. That the members of the Bandito MC fully cooperated with the investigators. So the detectives tested the rocks that were thrown into the family home for DNA. In court documents, we can see that the DNA testing ruled out Danny Kelly and Bobby Watson, but not Johnny Watson.
JJ threw rocks.
Now we have placed JJ there.
And Danny, because the neighbor saw him.
Exactly. The neighbor saw Danny. Bobby,
the rocks saw the other guy.
The rocks saw Johnny. And the guns that were used to kill the family were reported missing by Bobby.
By Robert Bobby.
Boys. So I know.
Boys.
How not to commit a murder.
I was just going to say that. You're channeling me.
I know. We're always
because
so into
making of a murder is always in the back of my head is something to watch. That's how not
to make a murder. On June 6th, 2022.
Wow.
I know. The Kitsap County Sheriff's Office announced that the 3 suspects in connection with the murders of the family, they don't initially name them, but they do announce that they're arrested.
They've been walking free for almost 5 years.
They have. They are held on a $20 million bond for each of them, with each facing 16 different felony charges for each person. Sorry, I put each in there too much. My bad. The charges range from aggravated murder in the first degree, murder in the first degree, arson first degree, and burglary first degree. At the pretrial hearing, Diane, see, I knew I was going to do it once in this episode. I almost got through it. Danny Kelly, Robert Bobby Watson III, and Johnny Watson all pled not guilty to the felony charges. A judge ordered the trio at that time to be held without bail, and they were not to possess firearms, alcohol, or drugs unless otherwise prescribed. Furthermore, the 3 assailants were forbidden to have any contact with one another, as required by the judge. Now, the jury trial, Megan, took 5 months. The defense worked for all 3 of them. Okay.
They ran them simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The defense worked to cast doubt on the timeline and cell phone towers used to track the alleged killer's movements.
Have you ever tried to argue with a cell phone tower?
I don't know that it works real well, does it?
It doesn't, because as long as they can show that there's actual valid records, there's really no way to dispute it. I've seen some defense attorneys try valiantly. I appreciate what they're doing, but I have never seen it be successful.
They're pulling at threads there in terms of the murder charges, but then they also wanted to suggest that there's no evidence of robbery or that anything was taken from the home for the robbery charges. So that's what that was truly what the defense was rusting on, what they were going for, okay?
I just don't feel like robbery was their main focus.
I wouldn't think so either. We have 4 murders here.
When I used to be a prosecutor and I'd charge people with all of these things, if somebody came in and said, well, I just really can't do any of this because I didn't commit the robbery, I'd be like, you know what? You plead guilty to the life offense murder that you committed. Mm-hmm. I'll just throw that robbery right out the door, baby.
Absolutely.
They are not going to take that play. But this is their focus. Because they think that if they can cast or create doubt on one charge, maybe the jury will find that there's doubt on all of the others as well.
That was my next statement. So I'll just skip over that because that's exactly what I said too.
Well, you hired me.
I know.
You picked me.
So true. Now, the 911 call from Hunter would show that the timeline and the math of the defense just didn't add up. Your math ain't mathin'.
It's a weird thing about numbers, and I don't like them either, guys.
No. But no, they're not my friend.
They are supposed to add to a certain thing.
But I wanted to include this piece because of the fact that Hunter truly had a huge part in bringing justice to his family's murder, his and his family's murder.
He was laying there dying and called. He was able to get to his phone. He was able to dial 911.
Yep. And right then and there, we have a timestamp. So it's pretty hard to argue with the cell phone towers timeline.
Agreed.
Say that 10 times
cell phone towers
people.
timeline.
Shut up. But it's pretty hard to argue with that compared to the timestamp of when Hunter called, right? So that's why that defense just didn't work. And ultimately, in April 2024, Megan, hear that again. Just this year, a few months ago, the men were found guilty of 30 charges, including first-degree murder, premeditated murder, and arson. And on May 7th, 2024, they were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
Which is the max you can get, I'm assuming, in Washington State.
As you should, because you killed 2 innocent babies, an innocent woman.
I simply meant they aren't a death penalty state. That's all I was pointing out.
Yes.
But yes, you killed a woman and 2 16-year-old children who had done nothing wrong.
I know.
And the person who was doing something wrong, involved in the drug trade, among other things there, Johnny, He didn't deserve to die.
No.
I want to make that very clear.
Nor
that I
did
don't
he
think
deserve to
that.
have his family die either.
No.
No, I know.
Interesting case, Charnell.
Yeah, thank you, Kelsey, for this recommendation. I'd like to say that it was a joy researching it, but as someone who has all of my I have a 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-old child. It was incredibly hard to
and let's just
think
admit,
about this.
We appreciate all of your recommendations, but you all very rarely bring us joy.
Oh, that's true.
You bring us bad.
Yeah, thanks
bad
for listening
juju.
and recommending, but dang. Yeah.
We want to bring you joy.
We do.
By telling the story and always by bathing you at the end.
We are going to bathe people.
Give us a bath.
And actually, this is something that was requested by one of our Patreons, Devin. She's fabulous. And she said, have you ever saw on Reddit the Am I the Asshole threads?
Yes.
Okay. She was like, I would love if you guys would do these like once a month or like more regularly, and I'd love your perspective.
Because you want an opinion
on them. Yeah.
So for those of you that wonder, it's the one that looks like you're like, why is it AITA? What's AITA? It's MI asshole, and then it goes on and gives you an explanation of something, and they truly want to know. Are they the asshole?
And so we're going to find out here.
Charnell, I basically feel like I'm an expert in this.
I know that. I think that's why Devin wanted us to read this.
I'm like a mix of Judge Judy and Dr. Ruth Westheimer. God rest her soul, who recently passed away.
Yes.
Not Judge Judy, Ruth.
So I had Devin. I was like, Devin, this is a fantastic idea. Send me some of your favorites that you want opinions on, and we will discuss as brain baths. Okay. So this was the first one that she sent.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. I want to do an entire brain bath on this.
I think we should.
Okay.
I think we should. If you're not a $10 a month Patreon, you should join so you can get all the brain bath episodes.
And when you do it, will you like read one, and then Jason and I can be here and we can hold up a card like yes. Or no, and then we can alternate? Or you
just hold up a card of a smiley face or one of an actual asshole.
Oh, I don't want to draw a picture of that at all.
The starfish? Jason will.
We'll hold up a starfish.
Jason will.
Okay.
All right. Am I the asshole for these wedding rules? Our family gave up on us. Okay? That's what this is the Reddit thread. Before y'all jump into any conclusions about how my fiance needs to run away from me and how crazy I am and what a poor man he is for dealing with me since y'all do it to every woman, let me clarify that these rules for the wedding were mutually agreed upon by both me and my fiance, and many of them were his idea.
I feel like you should have recorded that.
I'll list each rule and why people, including our families, were against each one.
Okay.
An unplugged ceremony and reception until dinner is over and the dance party start.
I'm fine with that.
Yep. That means no phones at all unless there's a very huge emergency. People were okay with the ceremony part, but they found the dinner part too much. Many of my parent friends also said that since they're leaving their kids at home, they should at least be granted a little grade to check their phone with their kids' babysitters. I said if I made an exception for them, I'd have to make it for everyone, so no. Unplugged means unplugged. Checking in with your kids is not an emergency. If something serious happens, you'll know. But how? How will you know?
See, now I don't like it as much.
No. When you say unplugged, I'm meaning don't take pictures, don't take videos. Don't be on your phone longer than just to make sure you don't have a text message from your kid's fucking babysitter saying, hey, someone broke into the house and stole your kids.
Okay.
Okay, like that.
I was in agreement at the beginning.
Until that point.
Yeah.
But remember, fiance
also,
agreed to this.
If my daughter is listening to this, because she is a big fan, her wedding's coming up next year, and I want you to listen to this, because then you'll know in advance whether I think you're an asshole.
Yes. Now let's get on to color schemes and strict dress code. All black color scheme and mandatory dresses for women and tuxedos for men. No pants allowed for women. I got reactions on this for two reasons. One reason is that my aunt, who's been mourning the death of her husband for over 2 years, just got rid of black clothes a couple of months ago and tried to move on and claims wearing black makes her depressed. Another issue is the mandatory dress, as my husband's sister has body dysphoria and hates dresses on her and always wears pants. Again, if I were to make an exception for two people, we'll have to make an exception for everyone.
This girl's irritating me.
I wonder How are you enforcing the dress code? Are you standing there turning people away if
No,
a
you're
woman
not.
shows up in pants?
No, you're not.
I am the woman that
Okay.
shows up in a classic pink pantsuit.
My daughter would prefer if at her wedding people wore black or dark clothes. The way that we've combated that is by indicating the bride and groom would love if you would wear dark colors. But it isn't mandatory, and I think that she's stepping and fine if you want a certain color scheme if people agree. I've seen plenty of weddings. I had a friends had a same-sex wedding and they wore black and everybody came dressed in white.
Oh,
Everybody.
okay.
So, but she's taking it a little too far with one requiring that women wear dresses because is it 1950 and are you Mrs. Beaver?
Yeah. And again, I'm sorry. How are you enforcing this?
I'm sorry. Beaver was her son. Her last name wasn't Beaver.
That's right. It
Wow.
wasn't. No.
Okay, let's just move on. Keep going.
Because it gets worse and cringier.
Really? Because even on the second one.
Ladies who don't have Botox, get ready to cringe your face. If you have Botox, you'll just be thinking it because you won't be able to scrunch your face. But here it goes.
Did you see that I automatically relaxed my forehead when you said that because I knew I was scrunching?
Yeah, you were. But
know.
This
I'm
one's cringy.
them.
This
Okay.
one's cringy. Bridesmaids diets.
No.
We've ordered the bridesmaids' dresses months in advance so they'll stay on the weight that they are right now. If you're bigger size, do whatever is in your power to stay big. If you're skinny, quit fast food for a few months and stay skinny. If the dresses don't fit, you are going to have a fucking problem, so stick to your fucking diets. Those
This
are
isn't
not my
real.
words.
This isn't real.
I thought so. That's what I was wondering.
I wouldn't be in her wedding.
No. They had an issue with this, claiming I can't police their eating habits. You're right, because you can't. They're right, because you can't, woman. One of my bridesmaids claims...
Is she reincarnated from Nazi Germany?
Hitler's daughter... Did Hitler have a daughter?
Possibly.
Is that you?
There's all kinds of rumors about the escape of his wife. And you never know. It's her.
One of my bridesmaids claims she developed an eating disorder from that rule, but there's no official diagnosis, so I don't know if she's
This
valid.
is a joke. This has got to be a joke.
I don't know. My mother... Okay. What's MOH's daughter?
Maid of honor.
Thank you. My maid of honor's daughter is supposed to be our flower girl, but maid of honor claims she can't do this since the kid will have to stay with a babysitter at a hotel after the ceremony. She lives 4 hours away from me and from where I'll be having the wedding. She planned on letting her daughter with her mom to save money on babysitters and refuses to bring the kid as a flower girl and leave her at the hotel with a babysitter. Yeah, I get that. So she said she planned on letting, I think she meant leaving. She planned on leaving her daughter with her mom to save money on a babysitter and refuses to bring the kid as a flower girl.
Right, because they don't want kids at the reception.
Yes, exactly.
And again, I understand and like and enjoy adult receptions because I don't like when people get fucking wasted in front of small children.
I agree.
But I think that if you are making a rule that children can't be at your reception, you should provide some type of childcare. We're doing that, by the way.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm going to have
nice.
licensed babysitters available for anybody that needs somebody to watch their kid.
How nice.
Otherwise, people just won't come. But that doesn't bother me. If you say adult reception or adult wedding and somebody says, well, sorry, I bring my kids with me everywhere, so I'm not going, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't mean they don't love you. They just don't want to follow your rule, and they don't have to.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with an adult rule. I do have a problem with her being mad at her for not bringing her just to the ceremony, though, if she wants her in it.
Yes. Yes.
If you invite a child to be part of the wedding party at a quote-unquote adult reception, they really need to be allowed to be at the reception, at the very least, like through dinner and stuff. And then if parents need to leave with them or whatever, fine.
To end this, she said, my in-laws have been against most of our rules from the start. My parents supported us until now, but my mom got so mad that she said our wedding is doomed from the get-go with these dumbass rules. Many people are canceling on us last minute, and bridesmaids have threatened to drop out. The verdict is, you are the asshole.
Totally an asshole.
You cannot. Are really?
You are an asshole. You know, people getting married too. One, if you're paying for it all yourself and you want those rules, great. You're going to have 20 people. Enjoy your party.
That's actually like one of the comments. Somebody was like, you can make all the rules that you want, but be ready to have fewer people at your wedding if you persist so rigidly.
And possibly lose some relationships afterward and decide how important that is to you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
But if I was her parents and I was paying for that wedding, I wouldn't be.
No.
I understand it's your wedding, but the people that are paying for it, I'm sorry, they get some say. I had a huge wedding and I was super young. I was definitely not a bridezilla.
This is where I draw the line, where you start trying to control the other person to
life.
Yeah.
Food
like
intake.
First of all, their diet. Women can only wear dresses. Men have to be in tuxedos. I don't know where this wedding is at, but a majority of people are not just going to have tuxedos lying around.
The appropriate way to state that is to write black tie.
Yeah.
If it's black tie, people are supposed to know you wear suits or tuxes. Yep. And then again, if you're a person who's like, oh, I don't go to black tie affairs, send them $20 and tell them you'll see them at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, then you don't go.
You don't go.
But when you're when you're telling parents you're not allowed to have your phone to check on your child with a babysitter, no.
Unplugged ceremonies is a new thing, and that's fine. And again, if you want it unplugged at the reception, as in you don't want people holding their phones up, taking videos and taking pictures, fine.
For sure.
But you can't tell me what to do with my phone. I'm going to check it with it right here on the table, just like this. It's not going to bother you. I'm not going to put it in the air. I'm going to be like, oh, look, I need to leave immediately because my home is on fire.
Absolutely. My kid just, got stung by a
emergency
bee.
room.
Yep.
He's vomiting. My kid that you won't let me come have at the reception. It's fine.
Yes.
But
kids aren't allowed at the wedding either, except for as a prop.
Right.
As the maid, the flower girl is allowed just for the ceremony and then has to be taken to the hotel to sit with a babysitter.
And listen, I understand that there may be people that disagree with us who like this bride and her groom thought, and I'm glad he supported her. It's my wedding. I'll have it the way I fucking want, how I fucking want. More power to you. But you are the asshole.
Yeah, you absolutely are the asshole, and you're going to have 5 people at your wedding.
And you accept the consequences.
One is the officiant.
Yeah.
One's your husband.
If you want to be the
2
bride,
witnesses.
if you want to be the bride that people talk about for years to come, it will be because of those requests and requirements and how big of an asshole you were, not because it was a beautiful ceremony and you and your husband are adorable together.
Yep.
Keep that in mind.
For sure.
If you want that, go get married alone.
Mm-hmm.
Go elope.
Like I said, with 5 people.
If you want to share your joy and other people's joy and not boss them around by telling them they can't eat Cheetos for 3 months, that don't have a wedding. About the time somebody tells me what I can put in my mouth is about the time I get divorced. No, I'm kidding.
I was just about to say that's where she totally lost me.
You couldn't justify it anymore.
And I would never be in her wedding. No. And I haven't changed weight since the 6th grade, Megan. Truly.
Okay.
With the exception of when I was pregnant,
but that's not the point. Oh, no. I've seen wedding things where they've told people that they're not to get pregnant.
Oh, I have to.
Now you have to control what you put in between your legs and not just in between your lips. Your mouth. All the lips.
I have more of a problem with that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not going to tell me that.
You listen to me. I'll put whatever I want in my body and whoever I want in my body. And if it wants to stay in there for 9 months and ruin your wedding.
Right. Then that's just
now I'm just angry.
Yeah, but
she made me angry.
She is the asshole.
She's the asshole.
Absolutely.
Unanimously.
We
would have lost Jason probably on the first one.
We would have.
I was giving her the benefit of the doubt. So
no.
Really great suggestion.
Yes, it was. Devin, you're a genius.
I want to cover more of these.
Me too. So, all right. Thank you all so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I mean, as much as you can. You're here for true crime. We gave you true crime. Thanks for being a listener and supporting us. If you would like to support our work more, feel free to click the link to join Patreon. We have levels at $3, $5, and $10 a month. That is less than a cup of coffee in most of the fancy coffee places.
At the one that starts with a star that has the person on it with the
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the one that's
And the
you know,
orange and black
there's-
cups.
Yeah, has BB as its initials. You know, there's all those things, but we're less than that, and so
worth it.
and you would get hundreds of episodes of content
Yeah.
on there. So feel free to do that, and just know that we would love it. But thank you. If you can't do that, we understand, and thank you for supporting us by listening. And
Until
keeping us on
next
air.
time,
keep it curious.
and keep listening, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.